Live from New Delhi, you're watching the India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Modi says India's achievements in health and social security acknowledged by global agencies. WHO declared India trachoma free, while ILO lauded Indian government's measures for social security. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi warns that Iran could produce enriched uranium within months. Emphasizes military operations will not resolve Iran nuclear issue. Concerns grow in Bangladesh over protection of minorities after rape of a Hindu woman in Comilla. Protesting students of Dhaka University demand justice for victim. G7 nations approve side-by-side framework, exempting American and British companies from top-up tax provisions, move aimed at stabilizing international tax system. Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill narrowly clears key Senate hurdle. Trump calls it great victory for great big beautiful bill. The 12-day-long Israel-Iran conflict ended with a ceasefire after Trump claimed to have obliterated Iran's nuclear program. But now the UN nuclear watchdog chief has raised eyebrows with a striking claim that Iran could possibly resume production of enriched uranium within months. Iran, meanwhile, has voiced serious doubts over Israel's commitment to the truce. Our next report by DD India's Mihir Maikuri has the details.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Just days after Trump's explosive announcement on Iran, the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog has detonated another political shockwave. Rafael Grossi said Iran could be capable of producing enriched uranium within months, reigniting fears of a nuclear flashpoint.
Iran had a very vast, ambitious program, and part of it may still be there. And if not, there is also the self-evident truth that the knowledge is there, the industrial capacity is there. Iran is a very sophisticated country in terms of nuclear technology, as is obvious. So you cannot disinvent this.
This comes on the heels of a dramatic escalation in June. Israeli strikes targeting Iranian nuke and military sites, followed by a US military intervention and a truce. Grossi is now advocating diplomacy over destruction.
Military operations or not, you are not going to solve this in a definitive way militarily. You are going to have an agreement. You are going to have an inspection system that will give everybody in the region and elsewhere the assurances that we can definitely turn the page.
As Iran mourns, it laid to rest top military and nuclear figures killed in the war with Israel. But the nation's pain deepened further with Iran confirming at least 71 deaths in an Israeli strike on Tehran's notorious Evin prison on June 23, many believed to be political detainees. Meanwhile, the fragile truce brokered by Trump is already showing cracks. Iran's top military commander has publicly voiced skepticism, saying Tehran doubts Israel's commitment to the ceasefire, casting long shadows over the agreement's longevity. In Israel, German Interior Minister visited the site of a deadly Iranian missile strike in Bat Yam that killed 9 civilians. There, he delivered a blunt message. If Iran possessed nuclear arms, they would not hesitate to use them.
We can see here how real the threat is. We see here that war is being waged on the civilian population. There are no military targets here. It is a terror attack on the civilian population. And when you see the damage that is caused by a rocket attack from Iran, then there is no doubt that would Iran have the nuclear possibility, they would use it against Israel.
With weapons, words, and wounds shaping the region's future, the question is no longer if the world can disarm Iran, but how to defuse a crisis before it explodes further. Mihir Makuri for DD India.
The G7 countries have reached a major agreement exempting US multinational companies from a new global minimum tax. This side-by-side tax system lets the US tax its own companies without interference from other countries. The agreement is being seen as a big win for President Trump's administration. Our report explains what this deal means and how it could reshape international tax rules. In what is seen as a major victory for US President Donald Trump, the G7 countries have agreed that US parented companies will be exempted from a global minimum tax imposed by other countries, something Trump was pushing for long. The US companies will benefit from side-by-side solution, meaning US will apply its own tax rules alongside the global tax rules without double taxation from both the US and foreign countries. According to G7 statement, a side-by-side system would fully exclude US parented groups from the undertaxed profits rule and the income inclusion rule in respect of both their domestic and foreign profits. In major points highlighted in the G7 statements, it said US companies won't face extra taxes from other countries. Under the side-by-side system, big companies based in the US won't be taxed by other countries under global tax rules. Everyone will work to keep the system fair. The G7 agrees to watch out for any problems like companies avoiding taxes or getting unfair advantages, so the rules stay fair for all. The global tax system will be made simpler. As they build the side-by-side system, countries will also work on making the overall tax process easier for companies to follow. It will fix how credits are treated. Some tax credits are not treated the same under global rules. The G7 wants to make this more fair and consistent, so it's clearer for everyone. The G7 statement also recognized that removal of Section 899 is crucial to this overall understanding and to provide a more stable environment for discussions to take place in the inclusive framework. The US Treasury said on X that this side-by-side approach would preserve important gains made by jurisdictions inside the inclusive framework. The Treasury Department said that following the removal of Section 899 from the Senate version of the One Big Beautiful Bill and consideration of the success of qualified domestic minimum top-up tax implementation and its impact, there's a shared understanding that a side-by-side system could preserve important gains made by jurisdictions inside that inclusive framework in tackling base erosion and profit shifting and provide greater stability and certainty in the international tax system moving forward, the G7 announced. We look forward to discussing and developing this understanding within the inclusive framework. Nearly 140 countries struck a deal in 2021 to tax multinational companies, an agreement negotiated under the auspices of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. That agreement, deeply criticized by Trump, includes two pillars, the second of which sets a minimum global tax rate of 15%. As global tariffs capture the world's attention and the G7 countries exempting US as part of the agreement, it remains to be seen how other nations will respond. Siddharth Bhardwaj report for DD India. US President Donald Trump's massive tax and spending plan is one step closer to becoming a law. After a dramatic late-night vote, Senate Republicans have pushed forward what Trump proudly calls his Big Beautiful Bill. But the proposal is facing sharp criticism from Democrats and even some surprising voices within Trump's own circle. Here's more on the high-stakes battle unfolding on Capitol Hill.
The yeas are 51, the nays are 49. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will report the bill.
With this, the U.S. Senate advanced President Donald Trump's massive tax and spending package, dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill, in a tight 51-49 procedural vote late Saturday night. The sweeping 940-page legislation extends $3.8 trillion in Trump-era tax cuts, introduces new exemptions, and significantly increases funding for border enforcement. President Trump, who monitored the vote from the Oval Office, hailed it as a great victory. Posting on social media, he wrote, "Tonight we saw a great victory in the Senate with great big beautiful bill." But Democrats remain sharply opposed, arguing the bill favors the wealthy while gutting essential social programs relied upon by lower income Americans.
Are scrambling to pass a radical bill released to the public in the dead of night, praying the American people don't realize what's in it. If Senate Republicans won't tell the American people what's in this bill, then Democrats are going to force this chamber to read it from start to finish. I object.
Adding to the controversy, billionaire Elon Musk, former member of Trump's cabinet, lashed out at the bill, calling it utterly insane and destructive. Taking to social media platform X, he wrote, "The latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future." The bill now heads for further reading, debate, and amendments in the Senate, with a final vote expected within days. If passed in the Senate, the bill would go back to the House of Representatives for approval, where Republicans can only afford to lose a handful of votes and are facing stiff opposition from within their own ranks.
A horrifying wave of violence against Bangladesh's Hindu minority is escalating unchecked. From temple demolitions to the brutal rape of a Hindu woman by a BNP leader, the attacks reflect deepening lawlessness. Over 2,400 incidents have been recorded in just 8 months, exposing a climate of impunity and fear.
The demolition of a Hindu temple and the rape of a Hindu woman within days point to a disturbing pattern of lawlessness and a continuous rise in religious extremist violence targeting minorities in Bangladesh. On Thursday, Fazar Ali, a leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party or the BNP, broke into the home of a Hindu woman in Ramchandrapur Panchakitta village of Kumila district and raped her at knife point. The shocking incident has sparked outrage, reflecting both the vulnerability of minorities and the alarming impunity with which political figures operate. Just days earlier, on Monday, a Muslim mob attacked a Hindu temple in the Khilket neighborhood of Dhaka, threatening devotees to vacate the land or face demolition.
My body feels burnt and my heart ripped. We have no place to pray. We are unable to express our pain to anyone. If thousands of mosques can exist, why can't we have one temple?
India's Ministry of External Affairs has expressed deep concern, urging Bangladesh's interim government to ensure the safety of Hindus and other minority communities.
We understand that extremists were clamoring for demolishing the Durga temple in Khilket, Dhaka. It is the responsibility of the interim government of Bangladesh to protect Hindus, their properties, and religious institutions.
Violence against Hindus in Bangladesh is not new, but its frequency and brutality are growing. Between August 2024 and March 2025, over 2,400 incidents targeting minorities were recorded, including assaults, temple desecrations, lootings, and arson attacks. On May 22, a Muslim mob torched more than 20 Hindu homes in Dahad Mashihati village in Jessore district. Shops were vandalized, homes were set ablaze, and families were left devastated. On March 9, Hindu trader Dilip Das was hacked to death during a robbery in Nayar Hat Bazaar while returning home with his wife. Then, on March 18, BNP extremists vandalized a Hindu family's home in Sylhet city and issued death threats, adding to the long list of violent threats faced by minorities in Bangladesh. The ongoing series of brutal attacks on Hindu community and minorities reflect a grave human rights crisis that shows no sign of slowing down in Bangladesh. Rabindra Chauhan for DD India.
Shipping activity of Bangladesh's busiest Chittagong port came to a standstill on Sunday due to a strike by customs officials protesting government plans to restructure the National Board of Revenue. The port, which typically handles 7,000 to 8,000 containers daily, is critical to Bangladesh's economy, especially its $222 million per day garment export. And industry leaders warn the disruption could lead to factory bankruptcies. Interim leader Mohammad Yunus called for an end to the strike, while business groups urged swift resolution. Still to come on DD NewsHour. Zelensky signs decree for Ukraine's withdrawal from anti-landmine treaty. Anti-corruption protesters in Belgrade demand snap elections and an end to 12-year rule of President Alexander.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. An Israeli court on Sunday agreed to postpone Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's testimony in his ongoing corruption trial following a request from his legal team supported by US President Donald Trump. Netanyahu's lawyers had asked for a 2-week delay, arguing that the Prime Minister must focus on urgent security matters after a ceasefire with Iran and amid continuing military operations in Gaza, where Israeli hostages remain held. While the court initially rejected the plea, it reversed its decision on Sunday after hearing arguments from Netanyahu himself, along with Israel's military intelligence chief and the head of the Mossad spy agency. Earlier on Wednesday, Trump called the charges against Netanyahu a witch hunt and urged the trial be cancelled immediately or that Netanyahu be pardoned, referring to him as a great hero. Turning now to significant developments from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukrainian President Zelensky has signed a decree pulling the country out of the Ottawa Convention, paving the way to use anti-personnel mines. Meanwhile, on Sunday, a Ukrainian F-16 pilot was killed while repelling a Russian attack involving some 500 drones and missiles. The Ukrainian military has said that it was the third such loss of an F-16 of the war. Ukrainian authorities have said that Russia used hundreds of drones, cruise and ballistic missiles to attack western, southern and central Ukraine overnight, damaging homes and infrastructure. Meanwhile, Russia has claimed to have seized Chervona Zirka in Donetsk, sharing videos of troops raising Russian flags in the captured settlement. Serbia anti-government protests turned violent as clashes erupt between the police and the demonstrators. For months, hundreds of thousands of protesters have been demanding snap polls. This report has the details.
Hundreds of thousands of protesters, including students, continue to gather in Serbia's capital Belgrade, demanding snap elections and an end to the rule of President Aleksandar Vučić. Clashes erupted between the police and the demonstrators. Several protesters have also been arrested. Police have deployed personnel in riot gear around the parliament, where Vučić's supporters have gathered in a counter-protest. But anti-government protesters remain undeterred.
Well, the hope is that something will change. That after 30 years, we'll be able to truly live in the society we have been fighting for since the 90s. At least that is why I'm here.
Today we are here to change Serbia and to finally see an end to this government. To somehow, I don't know how, to get to those elections to call them. And yes, I hope that they will be as fair as possible, because there will never be completely fair ones. And then we will start another fight, only not on the streets but at the polling stations.
Protests began in November last year after the roof of a train station collapsed in the northern city of Novi Sad, killing 16 people in a tragedy widely blamed on corruption. Opponents of Vučić have accused him and his allies of ties to organized crime and violence against rivals, while the president has said that the protests are part of a foreign plot to destroy his government. The president's second term ends in 2027, the same year in which parliamentary elections are scheduled. His coalition currently holds 156 of 250 parliamentary seats. Bureau Report, DD India.
Hundreds of people protested in Portugal's capital Lisbon against the worsening housing crisis. They are demanding rent controls and an extension of rental contract durations to 10 years. Protesters said Prime Minister Luis Montenegro, whose government was re-elected in May, had pledged to prioritize. However, that argue that measures recently announced are inadequate, sparking fresh mobilization by housing rights groups in the city. France has officially implemented a major smoking ban with an aim to protect public health, especially children. Under the new law, starting from Sunday, June 29, smoking is now prohibited on beaches, in parks, public gardens, near bush shelters, and outside places like libraries, swimming pools, and schools. This decision is part of the French government's broader push to reduce tobacco use and shield children from passive smoking. The rule is being imposed 1 week before the beginning of the school holidays in France in a clear bid to immediately protect children from smoke on the beach. Anyone caught violating the new rule will face a fine of €135. Sevilla in Spain is gearing up to host the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development with tight security measures in the city. The conference will bring together global leaders, including heads of state, finance ministers and CEOs, and leaders from international institutions to discuss future of development finance over the next decade. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez will take part in the high-level summit, which runs from 30th of June to July 3rd, alongside global leaders, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The agenda will focus on climate financing, global debt reform, and mobilizing public and private capital to address inequalities. China's state broadcaster CCTV on Sunday aired footage of rescue operations in the flood-hit southern city of Rongjiang in Guizhou province, showing emergency workers evacuating residents and heavy machinery clearing debris as efforts continue to manage the damage. Located at confluence of 3 rivers and home to 300,000 residents, Rongjiang was inundated earlier this week by record downpours that left 6 dead and forced more than 80,000 people to flee their homes. The amount of rain that fell over 72 hours was double the city's average for June. And in response to the new round of flooding, authorities raised the city's flood emergency response level to the highest level on Saturday. In southern China, over the past 2 days, 13 major rivers in Yunnan, Guizhou, Guangxi and Hainan were hit by storms and had risen above their warning levels. Ahead of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, Nepal's Prime Minister KP Oli is in Spain on an official visit, leading a 21-member delegation. During the trip, PM Oli will hold bilateral talks with his counterparts and witness the signing of MOUs to boost bilateral ties and cooperation. He is also scheduled to interact with the Spanish business community. Several key bilateral meetings are expected on the sidelines of the conference. Recently, the Navy Chief awarded 13 gallantry medals to Navy personnel for bravery during Operation Sankalp in the Red Sea and Arabian Sea last year. Our correspondent Nandita Dagar spoke to some of these brave men from our Navy.
This was a massive operation both in terms of scale and in terms of area. This operation was carried out over an area of 51 lakh square kilometers, and that included the Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, parts of the South and West Indian Ocean. And it was unprecedented, this kind of operations. 21 ships deployed, about 5,000 personnel. Coordination, like you said, there was coordination required between information coming from various agencies like the IFC, IOR, international agencies, merchant shipping companies. There were concurrent operations. So somewhere there was anti-piracy going on, somewhere there was anti-narcotics, somewhere the people were fighting fires, somewhere there was search and rescue. Also we did a Marcos airdrop at 2,500 kilometers from the Indian shores, which was perhaps for the first time, and that required extensive coordination.
So this was an operation, a hostage rescue situation, wherein there was a vessel called fishing vessel Omari. It was hijacked. For 3 days it was under the control of pirates. There were 20 people on board. One was killed to create fear among the crew, and there were 7 pirates, all Somali. The hijacking took place somewhere near the equator. So we were 8 of us, and we did not have a backup boat. So we closed in, and thereafter we started shouting at the crew to stop the vessel. They were not stopping. They were trying to fake themselves as fishermen themselves and taking their boat. But we could see people on the lower decks raising their hands and showing red color flags and all that. They were, yes. So then we closed in, and we started shouting at them to halt the vessel. It took about almost 10-15 minutes, and they were under the influence of drugs. We were able to climb onto the boat. We overpowered all the pirates, and we got all the hostages upstairs, and then we started searching the boat. We found arms and ammunition with them.
6th of March 2024, I was the detachment commander of the helicopter on board INS Kolkata, and we were deployed in the Red Sea, man. So during that mission, we just got some information that some attack has happened, a rough position, but there were no details. The whole vessel was engulfed in the flames, and we still flew in close proximity of this two confidants to find out if there is someone who needs our help. But it was very evident that no one would have survived on board. So in my helicopter, I evacuated 8 personnel, ma'am, and then subsequently the information was given to our vessel Kolkata. They closed their life raft, and we successfully evacuated all 21 of them, and we had taken them to the nearest country of the Djibouti.
In a historic step to finally recognize and honor the thousands of innocent civilians, the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, met the family members of Kashmiri civilians killed by Pakistan-backed terrorists in the last 3 decades. LG Sinha bowed to the family members and paid tributes to the common Kashmiri citizens who fell victim to the bullets of Pakistani terrorists. He noted that the Government of India is committed to bring voices of victims to the forefront, ensure justice and expose the conspiracies of the terror ecosystem. Lieutenant Governor Sinha also asked the family members of terror victims who are entitled for government jobs to submit their cases to concerned deputy commissioners. As part of India's ongoing humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan, a 5-day Jaipur food camp was held in Kabul by BMVSS Jaipur. The camp received an enthusiastic response with around 75 prosthetic limbs successfully fitted. The initiative brought hope and mobility to many in need, further strengthening the bonds of friendship between India and Afghanistan. In a bid to promote sports and holistic education, India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan kicked off the distribution of FIFA footballs under the Football for Schools initiative at PM Shri Kendra Vidyalaya in Fort William, West Bengal. Organized by the Ministry of Education and All India Football Federation, the event saw more than 2,000 footballs distributed to 349 schools in Kolkata districts. Simultaneously, programs were held in 21 Kendriya Vidyalayas across West Bengal with a target of distributing 88,113 footballs statewide. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. A detailed discussion on what awaits next as G7 countries agree to side-by-side tax deal for US companies. India's Home Minister Shah says government aims to achieve $1 billion in turmeric exports by 2030. A report on exquisite Eri silk or Ahimsa silk production in Migalia. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj and a quick recap of headlines. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi warns that Iran could produce enriched uranium within months, emphasizes military operations will not resolve Iran nuclear issue. Concerns grow in Bangladesh over protection of minorities after rape of a Hindu woman in Comilla. Protesting students of Dhaka universities demand justice for victim. G7 nations approve side-by-side framework exempting American and British companies from top-up tax provisions. Move aimed at stabilizing international tax system. Going back to a top story, the G7 nations have bagged a side-by-side tax arrangement that favors US companies, marking a significant win for President Trump. But the big question now is, how will other countries react and what comes next? Now, to help us break it all down, I am joined by Professor Manoj Pant. He is economist and a former VC IIFT. A very warm welcome to the broadcast, sir. To begin with, how do you see this arrangement by G7 nations for the US companies? How significant is this, according to you?
Okay, it is very significant. And let me try to, it's a very difficult thing to explain to standard audiences. See, the thing to remember is that for the last, since 2000, just as we have a WTO for trade, we've been trying to work out a multilateral agreement on taxation. And the reason is there are low tax jurisdictions and high tax jurisdictions. High tax jurisdictions found they were losing income shown by multinationals in low tax jurisdictions. So they were losing income. It's very simple. What a high tax jurisdiction company can do is declare higher costs for inputs, etc. in that country, and therefore, in a sense, transfer profits to a low jurisdiction income, because their taxation is on the basis of global income. So the idea was that just as in fairness, everyone pays the same effective tariff. Everyone should pay the same effective tax rates. Now the history is that for the last 20 years, countries have been unwilling to agree on a common minimum tax because no one wants to put their tax systems under a global tax regime. So recently, countries agreed that let's agree that we cannot have the same tax, but let's agree that foreign multinational companies must pay some tax. Reason is, suppose a company declares high cost in India, right? In which case it will show zero profit in India. So they pay a zero profit tax. So in a sense, it's a tax loss to India. So what they decided, all the countries, was there would be a 15% minimum alternate tax. If you don't want to file for exemptions or file for etc., you simply pay minimum of 15% tax. And if your tax rate is coming to be lower than that, suppose your effective tax rates, I won't explain that now, it will take too long. If effective tax rate is working to less than 15%, then the country has the right to top up the tax. So if your tax rate is worked out effectively to 8% or 9% because you've been moving your tax around the world, then you add another 7% approximately of your global taxable income to your tax. So that was system as now. Now US companies in particular tend to defray foreign taxes. US system is that the US foreign taxes are sort of defrayed or postponed till the multinational companies remit income tax. Now, as a consequence of this top-up tax arrangement it made, companies outside the US would prefer to stay outside because they would pay, they would have either a 15% or they'd pay a top-up. Now, what has happened is, not even do these companies want to pay 15, they don't even want to pay the top-up. So they're saying, no, if we are able to pay 8% abroad, and believe me, most American companies are located abroad, not in the US. That's the jurisdiction part. They look at other tax jurisdictions. They want that if our profit, if our tax is 6%, we'll pay only 6%. Now, that's what the current thing. What this current side-by-side agreement does is, particularly for US and UK companies, most of which are located outside the US and UK, they want that this top-up arrangement should go. So if you are paying only 8% profits, if you are showing only 8% profits, then you don't, or 8% profit, then you don't top up to the 15% minimum tax. You get the point? That's the point. So if you end up with paying only 6%, so effectively your 15% top up, 15% alternate tax, which all countries, including India, have agreed, becomes actually your maximum tax percent for multinationals.
Professor Pant, this term you just mentioned, side by side, is puzzling. What it is according to you, the side by side tax system, and how does it differ from previous global tax frameworks?
No, I told you, global tax, every country has a different taxation system. And because, I'll give you a simple example, viewers get your tax is a very tough topic.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example.
I agree, yeah.
Your taxation level for income tax in India, let's say 33%, right? For a high income earner. But when you calculate the actual tax paid divided by income because of exemptions, it may be only 21%. So the effective tax rate is normally much less than the actual tax rate because of exemptions, etc. Now this way, if you calculate, when TNCs calculate, their effective tax rate might be much less than the 15% we've all agreed to. Just about to. What the US say, now what happens on the top-up system, countries have the right to top up this. Make sure you're paying at least 15%. What Trump is saying, no, American companies will not do this.
Yeah. Correct.
If our taxation is not only 8%, we'll stick to that. I won't get into calculation of OECD effective tax. It's very complicated. Take me the whole program just to explain that. Just remember, it's a way of TNCs avoiding, because it's basically a multinational company issue, avoiding worldwide taxation, used to do earlier, by moving profits from high tax to low tax things. Now, why do American companies gain? Most of them can defer their taxation abroad till income is actually transferred to the US. Now, under the existing system, countries say this is our jurisdiction. Like India also says, by the way, this tax agreement, I'm not expert on this. This is my income. Now, what we will say is that we know what your global income is. Whatever proportion of income tax you are earning in India, if your share of your sales in India is 15%, then 15% of your global income is part of Indian taxation.
Correct.
Now what this does is therefore tries to level the income level and tries to level the tax, minimum tax, and therefore also taxing income on a jurisdiction basis. Now jurisdiction basis continues, but the minimum alternate tax is gone. So if you are a high tax country, then these companies will transfer the income out to other places, other jurisdictions. That's what it does.
Okay.
In nutshell.
Okay, Professor. Now, looking at the present situation, how far this agreement will impact other countries that were hoping to tax US multinationals?
See, it's very simple. It's like saying, why do we agree to the American tariff thing? Right? It does. In fact, every commodity, suppose I say I don't want to agree. No to Mr. Trump, no agreement. You do what you want. We don't even know whether you can impose the minimum tax 10% because that is still not clear what is tax jurisdiction, what is tax authority is because of the internal court case going on. Suppose the problem is that the American will twist your hands elsewhere. Your companies, what he's saying is, you don't allow it, I will tax your companies at twice the rate. Now, many companies, frankly, especially the Japanese and others, make a lot of their profits in the US market. So what he's saying is, if you take away money from my companies in other ways, I'll take it back from in some other way by levying more taxes on your companies. Frankly, I don't think it's going to work. People are always saying it's a major tax victory. I have found from my own study of taxation of TNC over the years, whatever you do, TNCs have a right, which no one can take away, of having global taxation at the global income level. If they didn't agree on this, these companies on the minimum tax top-up being removed, they would have found some other way. What Trump is saying, remove all this business. I have some sympathy with it. And not a lot, but some sympathy. He's saying let's have a level thing. You know, if they want to declare only 8% profit tax in your country, let me 8%, don't raise it to 15%. That's what he's saying. He's saying don't limit their operations or their ability to move, shift profit tax on from low to tax jurisdiction. What Trump is saying is, if you prevent that, if you prevent them by their saying that they must pay at least a 15% MAT, then I will tax your companies on a higher level to disadvantage them. You know, it's like saying, मेरी नाक काटोगे तो मैं तुम्हारी भी नाक काटूं. Not realizing as a consequence कि दोनों की नाक गई. I've got a feeling the G7 will agree, and they have agreed, I'm told, right?
Yeah.
They'll agree because their companies will pressurize them because they have a lot. Remember, US is the largest destination of foreign investment. I mean, that is the place where all companies are setting up, not the other way around. So if they were to be taxed over there, then that would be a killer.
Okay.
So they're going to agree to this. That's really what it is all about.
Definitely. We'll have to wait and see what will happen next, but we leave it there. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in on the broadcast. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his Mann Ki Baat program, highlighted India's achievements in health and social security. Prime Minister said that WHO has declared India trachoma-free. While citing an International Labour Organization report, Prime Minister noted that over 64% of India's population now benefits from some form of social protection, showcasing the government's commitment to inclusive welfare.
आज भारत में ज्यादातर आबादी किसी न किसी सोशल प्रोटेक्शन बेनिफिट का फायदा उठा रही है और अभी हाल ही में इंटरनेशनल लेबर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ILO की बड़ी अहम रिपोर्ट आई है। इस रिपोर्ट में कहा गया है कि भारत की 64%, 64% से ज्यादा आबादी को अब कोई न कोई सोशल प्रोटेक्शन बेनिफिट जरूर मिल रहा है। सामाजिक सुरक्षा ये दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी कवरेज में से एक है। आज देश के लगभग 95 करोड़ 95 करोड़ लोग किसी ना किसी सोशल सिक्योरिटी योजना का लाभ पा रहे हैं, जबकि 2015 तक 25 करोड़ से भी कम लोगों तक सरकारी योजनाएं पहुंच पाती थी। स्वास्थ्य से लेकर सामाजिक सुरक्षा तक हर क्षेत्र में देश सैचुरेशन की भावना से आगे बढ़ रहा है। ये सामाजिक न्याय की भी उत्तम तस्वीर है। इन सफलताओं ने एक विश्वास जगाया है कि आने वाला समय और बेहतर होगा।
PM Modi also mentioned about Meghalaya's Eri silk, which recently received GI tag. He said Eri silk is like a heritage for Meghalaya.
आजकल दुनिया में ऐसे प्रोडक्ट्स की डिमांड तेजी से बढ़ रही है जिनमें हिंसा न हो और प्रकृति पर उनका कोई दुष्प्रभाव न पड़े। इसलिए मेघालय का एरी सिल्क ग्लोबल मार्केट के लिए एक परफेक्ट प्रोडक्ट है। इसकी एक और खास बात है, ये सिल्क सर्दी में गर्म करता है और गर्मियों में ठंडक देता है। इसकी एक खूबी इसे ज्यादातर जगहों के लिए अनुकूल बना देती है। मेघालय की महिलाएं अब सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप के जरिए अपनी इस धरोहर को और बड़े स्केल पर आगे बढ़ा रही हैं।
Meghalaya, often referred to as the abode of clouds, is also a hub for the exquisite Eri silk. This indigenous craft not only preserves the rich cultural heritage of the state, but also provides livelihoods to thousands of families. We bring you a closer look at the journey of Eri silk in Meghalaya in this report.
In the tranquil village of Umden Diwan, Meghalaya, Eri silkworms flourish. This village has become a hub for eri silk production, with cooperatives, designers, and weavers turning the craft into a thriving local industry. Eri silk, known as Ahimsa silk, is produced from the Samia ricini moth, which feeds on castor leaves. What sets it apart is the ethical process. Unlike other silks, the pupae are not killed, making it an eco friendly, sustainable tradition nurtured by local families. Women are central to this craft, hand spinning yarn and weaving it into fabric. Natural dyes, made from mulberry, flowers, and fruits, add to its organic appeal. At the heart of eri silk culture is the rindia, the traditional women's garment that has gained popularity far beyond the region. Omden Devon is now proudly known as the Eri Silk Village. Valued for its warmth, durability, and texture, Eri Silk blends tradition with modern fashion. From village looms to fashion ramps across India and abroad, its unique charm is gaining global attention. Eri Silk is more than a fabric. It's Meghalaya's story of heritage, sustainability, and women led entrepreneurship. When in Meghalaya, don't miss the chance to take home a piece of this tradition. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Home Minister Amit Shah on Sunday inaugurated the national headquarters of the Turmeric Board in Nizamabad city in the state of Telangana. Addressing a gathering after inauguration, Home Minister Shah said that the government aims to achieve $1 billion in turmeric exports by 2030. He also underscored the board will focus on packing, branding, marketing and exports and work to ensure better prices for turmeric farmers.
भारत सरकार ने 2030 तक $1 बिलियन के हल्दी के निर्यात का एक्सपोर्ट का लक्ष्य रखा है और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंचों पर $1 बिलियन के एक्सपोर्ट के लक्ष्य को अचीव करने की हमने पूरी तैयारी भी की। ये जो बोर्ड बनेगा, ये हल्दी की ज्यादा से ज्यादा कीमत हल्दी के किसानों तक पहुंचे, इसके लिए काम करेगा। इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में हल्दी की खपत को बढ़ाने के लिए प्रचार प्रसार करेगा।
Under the Sustainable Development Goals, the government today released the National Indicator Framework 2025. On the occasion of Statistics Day, the ministry highlighted in its latest report the key steps India has taken towards achieving the SDGs. Social security coverage has increased from 22% in 2016 to 64.3% in 2025. Per capita income from agriculture rose from 61,427 in 2015 to 94,110 in 2024-25. Access to quality drinking water in villages has now reached 99.6%. The share of renewable energy increased from 16% in 2015-16 to 22.13% in 2024-25. The number of internet users rose from 300 million in 2015 to 950 million in 2024. In 2015-16, only 18% of waste was managed, which has now improved to 80% by 2024. The forest cover in the country increased from 21.34% in 2015 to 21.76% in 2023.
Our focus must be on greater integration of technology, enhanced coordination with state statistical systems, strengthening data quality through training and innovation, and expanding stakeholder engagements to make our statistics more responsive and relevant. Let us continue this journey with renewed purpose, ensuring that our statistical system remains a trusted foundation for evidence-based governance and inclusive development.
National Statistics Day, celebrated on 29th of June, pays homage to Professor Prasanta Chandra Mahalnobis, a pioneer in statistics and economic planning, and aims to raise public awareness, particularly among the younger generation, about the role of statistics in socio-economic planning and policy formulation for national development. Here's a report.
Every year on the 29th of June, India celebrates National Statistics Day. This day commemorates the birth anniversary of Prasant Chandra Mahalnobis, a visionary thinker, a pioneering statistician, and a father of the modern statistics in India. It is observed to acknowledge the contribution of Indian statisticians and promote statistics as an essential field of study. P.C. Mahalanobis was born on June 29, 1893 in Kolkata. He is best known for developing Mahalanobis distance, a statistical method widely used in population studies and multivariate analysis. This concept measures the distance between a data point and the center of a distribution while accounting for the correlation between the different variables, a groundbreaking advancement in the statistical science. Beyond academics, Mahalanobis played a crucial role in shaping India's development path. In 1951, he became a founding member of Independent India's first planning commission. As a planner, he proposed the two-sector model for the industrial growth, which became the foundation of the second five-year plan between 1956 and 61. This model, known as Mahalanobis model, accelerated India's industrialization. In recognition of his immense contributions, he was honored with the Padma Vibhushan, India's second highest civilian award, in 1968. In 1931, P.C. Mahalanobis also founded the Indian Statistical Institute in Kolkata, which has now 10 branches across India, including in Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, Coimbatore, and Girit, dedicated to the advanced statistical education and research. The first National Statistics Day was observed on June 29, 2007, with the aim to honor P.C. Mahalanobis' legacy and recognize the role of statistics in policy making and daily life. Statistics as a branch of mathematics deals with the collection, presentation, classification, and interpretation of data. It helps government and organizations design accurate, data-driven policies that are grounded in evidence and clarity. In 2025, India is celebrating the 19th National Statistics Day. This celebration is not just about history, it is a call to action for the next generation of thinkers, analysts, and changemakers to take forward P.C. Mahalanobis' vision of using statistics to empower progress, precision, and planning in every corner of the society.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for sport, and two-time defending champion Carlos Alcaraz will target his third successive Wimbledon title as the tournament kicks off on Monday. Alcaraz aims to defend his title against world number 1 Jannik Sinner and 24-time Grand Slam winner Novak Djokovic. Sinner will hope to bounce back after losing the French Open final to Alcaraz earlier this month, while 7-time Wimbledon champion Djokovic returns to the tournament with his sights set on a record-extending 25th Grand Slam title. In women's singles, Barbora Krejcikova is fit for her title defense after Czech suffered an injury scare days before the tournament. But after resting for several days, the 29-year-old is confident that the injury will not be an impediment in her bid to retain the trophy. Meanwhile, top seed and 3-time Grand Slam winner Aryna Sabalenka will eye her maiden Wimbledon title. Coco Gauff, who won the French Open title this year, will also bid for her maiden trophy at the All England Club. India's women boxers will make their first appearance of the season at the World Boxing Cup in Kazakhstan, which begins on Monday. The 10-member women's squad includes Paris Olympian and Commonwealth Games medalist Jasmine Lamboria, along with Tokyo Olympian and former Asian champion Pooja Rani. Meanwhile, the 10-member men's boxing team remains unchanged from the Brazil meet, where they won 6 medals. The Kazakhstan leg will run till 7th of July in Astana city, where over 400 boxers from 31 countries will compete across 10 weight categories in both men's and women's divisions. The Brazil leg marked the first of the 3 World Boxing Cups scheduled this year. The series will conclude with a final event in India this November. And that's all for this edition of DD India NewsHour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. And you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.